Look, I've got the great pleasure of introducing this next session. It's actually it's a passion project of mine, and I'm really excited to be here, and also just to introduce the Lord Mayor, who will be broadcasting a video from him because he couldn't make it today. The Right Honourable Lord Mayor of Brisbane, Councillor Adrian Schrinner. So he's both the Lord Mayor of Brisbane, also Chair of the South East Queensland Council of Mayors. For those of you who don't know the Council of Mayors, as you know, the City of Brisbane's got a really big challenge. It's a really fast-growing city. In fact, I think it's the fastest-growing city, if not very close to the fastest-growing city in Australia. So that's a tremendous opportunity, but a really massive challenge, you know, because where are all these people going to live? The Council of Mayors is an organisation, and we have one of the mayors here. I'd like to acknowledge Greg Christensen, who's the Mayor of Scenic Rim. And the Council of Mayors is an independent political advocacy organisation, so they advocate really for all of us, so for infrastructure and a range of things, but also a strong push for environment as well is embedded within their interests. So the Lord Mayor of Brisbane says that his goal as Lord Mayor is very simple: to make Brisbane, the Brisbane of tomorrow, even better than the Brisbane of today. And I think that sounds pretty good to me as a resident of Brisbane. For me, this is very similar to our mission with our future card, and to ensure that we have the best South East Queensland for now and into the future. So if you wouldn't mind, please cue the video.
Hi, I'm Lord Mayor Adrian Schrinner. It gives me great pleasure today to help launch an exciting evolution in the way that we monitor the health of our region's waterways and catchments. This next step will bring everything you've heard about today together into one integrated platform. While it hasn't been officially named, Project Future Card is all about getting South East Queensland future ready. Following a successful pilot in Logan, Project Future Card will futurecast the health of our waterways and catchments, rather than focusing solely on past performance. The expanded capacity of Future Card will also help us better understand and manage progress towards South East Queensland's Natural Resource Management Plan, so that we can make decisions and invest funds into the places that will best help to protect our region's incredible natural assets. While the report card has given us 21 years of data at our fingertips, it's now time for the program to move into adulthood and to help us roll out a suite of actions to get our region Olympics ready. Like me, the mayors of South East Queensland are so excited by the opportunities provided by the Olympics, as well as the South East Queensland City deal, that will see new levels of cooperation between all three levels of government and industry to improve water quality in our creeks, rivers and in Moreton Bay. I'd now like to invite Andrew O'Neill from Healthy Land and Water and Simon Costanzo from Darwinian Consulting to give you all a sneak peek.
So I don't think Simon needs any introduction. He just passed the ball to the rest of the panel and then got it back again, which is genius, really. But also, I don't think if you haven't seen Hayley's been sitting at the back drawing, and you'll see some things soon from her. But I know I kind of like the moo. That's good. That's good. I'm very happy with that. Well, I'd like to thank the Honourable Lord Mayor for that introduction. That's quite the introduction, Simon. No pressure at all whatsoever with that. So I'm Andrew. This is Simon Costanzo. You've met him. Hayley Langsdorff from Thoughts Drawn Out. So we're part of the project team today that are going to tell you a story. And I know that might sound a bit lame, like, oh no, not another story, but I think a story is really important for this because we've been on a journey for the last 12 months, haven't we? Mm-hmm. So as our region grapples with the effects of climate change, population growth, which we've talked about today, and we set out on an ambitious journey towards the Olympics in 2032, which we just touched on and we'll be touching on again in a minute. We've decided to really evolve the way that we do things with Report Card. You heard about the grades. We're going to talk about that. Our vision for this is called Project Future Card. It doesn't really have a name yet, but I'll take names. If you write them on a little piece of paper and you give them to us, we'll be really appreciative. I've come up with lots of names. Simon doesn't like any of them, but that's probably because they're not good, and it might be because Simon's just doesn't get it. So I can't decide which one it is. So our vision for this is that we are, as a collective, we're much more powerful, and I think that this room today, I feel that energy and that enthusiasm, that we're much more powerful as a group than working in silos to manage the health of our region's natural assets, to make SEQ, as in the Lord Mayor's words, future ready.
Thanks, Andrew. And we have been working considerably hard over the last 12 months trying to come up with something new beyond the existing EHMP report card. Now, you know, I got introduced as having grown up here, and I've seen how SEQ has changed. Who was born in South East Queensland? Yeah, so it's changed a lot. I'm only young, I'm only 26, so it's it's significantly changed, and what has also changed is people's viewpoints have changed as well. And so with those changing viewpoints, it's sort of timely that we change some of the tools that we use to assess and manage South East Queensland. So before we get on to what we've been doing, Andrew, would you like to tell everyone why, you know, beyond what I've just mentioned, we've needed to change things in South East Queensland?
Yeah, so I think, I don't have a lapel mic, so I think fundamentally it's because many of you in this room as well, as we stand here today on the day that we launch the report card grades, in discussions we've been having over the last couple of years, you've been telling us that you're pretty frustrated really with getting, you know, a D or an F, or, you know, there's some folks from Noosa here, Shree's here, and there's some others from Noosa, pretty happy with an A, even an A minus, and an A minus could be B plus, look out. But you can be happy enough with an A, but when you get a D or an F, it sucks. There's no doubt about it. And you get to the end of the year, it's just it doesn't quite do the job that it did when we set out on this journey 21 years ago. So it's not to say that the grades aren't really useful. They are. They drive discussion, but it isn't on their own. They're not enough. Certainly not enough anymore, because the problems that we face now are more complicated than upgrading sewage treatment plants. So the grades, as we heard before from our chair, Professor Rod Connolly, they're underpinned by science, and they are championed by our political leaders, and we really appreciate that. They've driven tons of investment, billions of dollars of investment, and that's made a real difference for particularly our estuaries and Moreton Bay, but other parts of our environment in South East Queensland. I just think we need to use our data sets in a much better way. I think that our data sets are powerful. We've been collecting them, as our chief scientist has said to us before. You collect all this data, as long as you use it really, get the most out of it, because it's expensive. It's really expensive collecting these great data sets, and we should continue to collect them because they're informing our trends. So the other thing is that we've got these great targets. So you heard from Grace before about the NRM plan, and in that plan we've got excellent targets, and they're really spot on to decide so that we know what to do. However, we're not hitting them. So something needs to change. So I think it's not a guess that I would say that you, our community, are not satisfied. You told us. So when we did all that survey that Grace talked about, you told us that you're not happy with the progress towards targets. You want us all collectively. We need to do more.
Yeah, we just spoke about Australia being number 37 on hitting targets at the national scale. You know, why aren't we meeting our targets at the local scale, Andrew?
So I think that's a really good question, because you think we talked about these targets. If you've got them, then people will just do them, right?
Yeah.
So I think the heart of the question really is that when decision makers, politicians, community, we get a grade at the end of the year, it's too late to do anything about it. I think that's the heart of it. It's frustrating. It's pretty disempowering. I've heard mayors from our region say it's actually, we lose hope because we just have the same grade every year. So if you'll just indulge me for a second, I'd just like to take the discussion about Finland's education system just a bit further. I think there's a parallel between where we're heading with our project here and the way the education system has evolved over the last couple of decades. So put your hand up for when you're at school, you just got a grade at the end of semester, and that was it. Yep. So modern schools, and I think it's maybe not all schools, but modern schools do things differently. There's pretty regular, and I know this because I've got a 12 and a 14-year-old, there's pretty regular three-way parent-teacher student meetings, and the students run the meetings and they've set targets, and then they run strategies. There's pretty good accountability. Like it's not just, it's all on the student, it's a shared responsibility. They're tracked, the efforts. They also, on the little report cards you see now, for people who've got kids at school, it says effort. We didn't have that when I was at school, so you might have tried really hard and not done very well, but still you tried hard, right? So that was worth something. So I think we're not hitting our targets because whilst the targets are good, we don't actually have that accountability yet. In some patches there are. I think the sewage treatment plants, they've got ERAs and they're regulated, and so it happens. I think that's the heart and the soul of the story. So I'm wondering, Simon, can you share a bit about what we've been doing?
Do you like our scripted to and forward? So this concept of future card, like it kind of insinuates that we're going to be predicting the future, all right? It makes me nervous. Now, Socrates never actually wrote anything down. Everything that we know about Socrates was captured by Plato. And one thing that Socrates was attributed as saying was, and I'm paraphrasing, but the only thing I know for certainty is that I know nothing. Right. Thanks for that nugget of wisdom, Socrates. That's really going to help us deliver a future card. But I've been picking away at that statement because I heard it about a week ago. And what I think he was referring to there, and we can discuss this later. So the only thing I know for certainty is that I know nothing. Is that our preconceived ideas of how the world works aren't necessarily the way the world works, right? And so that moving forward and this notion of seeing forward and predicting the future is difficult. He actually also said that he does think he's wiser than everyone else in the room, but only because he's the only one that understands his own ignorance. So he was an interesting character. But if we look at report cards, which we've had for 21 years now, they weren't designed like this, but if you think about it, they're backward-looking tools, right? They look backwards. Monitoring and collecting information is all about looking backwards. And so hindsight's a wonderful thing, and we use hindsight to see how we've gone in the past and then perhaps adjust the way we move forward with the lessons we've learnt, good and bad lessons. On the flip side of hindsight is foresight. And there's an author, Carl Schroeder, he's a futurist author, and he said, foresight is not predicting the future, it's minimising the surprises, right? And that's what we can do with Project Future Card. And that's what we've been trying to develop, is a tool that helps us identify the surprises that are ahead of us so that we can either embrace them if they're good or avoid them if they're not good.
So I'm wondering though, because the world is very complex.
Yep.
And you're talking about not just upgrading an STP and reducing some nitrogen. You're actually talking about a really complex world. How do you unpack the complexity of the world we're living in?
Yep.
Whilst having it simple enough that we can actually, like Hugh said, it's easier to measure against 4 or 5 indicators rather than 40, 41 or 167. So how do you make it as simple as possible, as I heard Peter Cozier say, as simple as possible but no simpler?
Yeah, I like that too. There's a bunch of methods. So we're not pioneering the world of complexity, but there are a bunch of methods out there that you can use to understand complexity. And the one we've landed on was developed by a professor at MIT in Boston in 1956, and his name was Jay Forrester. And Jay Forrester was an interesting chap because he also invented RAM that we find in our computers, and he also developed the first computer animation of a bouncing ball. So you've learnt something from me today, but that's not what we've adopted. What we've adopted from Jay is a systems thinking approach. Right?
Haven't we? I thought that's what we were.
System thinking approach. Now, and it's pretty basic. We all live in a system. There's financial systems, there's superannuation systems, there's education systems, there's our global system. And the concept is if you poke it here, it's going to have an impact over here, or it's going to have an impact on the whole thing, right? And so understanding how poking it here has knock-on effects throughout the system is what we're using to identify those surprises in the future.
So, I mean, that print seems pretty academic to me.
Yes.
Can you
It does sound
can
academic.
you show me something we prepared earlier?
Yes. So we've had this question a lot. We've been theorising and carrying on like pork chops about Jay Forrester and so. But what we've done is we've developed some mock-up interfaces. And so this is what we've coined the SEQ marketplace. And this is one of our tools in Project Future Card. It would be a online web portal. Yes, it's moving across. So there's a number of elements here that I'm going to take you through. So this is kind of my PowerPoint slide for the rest of the day. On the right there, we've got a map, and you'll see a bunch of red dots on there. And they're all investment opportunities in southeast Queensland. Environmental investment opportunities. And we've clicked on one there, the Cedar Grove Environment Centre. And Cedar Grove Environment Centre is down in the Logan. It's been built. It's got walking tracks. It's got an education centre. It's got an advanced wastewater treatment plant. It's got a whole range of different things. So that was an investment. Someone paid money to build that environmental centre there. Now, this portal, so the SEQ marketplace that I'm describing here, it's got a bunch of other interesting things. It's got a description. It's got who put this up on the website. So in this case, it was Logan City Council. It's got an estimated cost, $53 million. And where we start to get interesting is we've got estimated returns. So any investor always wants to know what are the returns on their investment, right? And usually it's fiscal returns. What we are proposing is to develop a system that can help us understand the environmental returns, the economic returns, the social returns, and the Indigenous cultural returns of this investment. Okay? Now you'll see some are positive and some are negative. So in Cedar Grove, it has a great environmental return from its educational, from its advanced wastewater treatment plant, but it costs some money to run. So even though it's going to bring in tourism, even though it's going to generate jobs, it's still going to have a negative economic impact. It's going to cost money to run. But we get those environmental returns, those social returns, and we get some strong cultural returns. And so if I was to, that sounds pretty, Simon, Andrew, Healthy Land and Water, how'd you come up with this, you know? Well, let's dig a bit deeper. So we piloted this in the Logan. We used this systems thinking approach. And, all right, we're a bit out of sync here, but that's okay. Can you imagine, we have this sort of system, before I tell you how we do it, we have this system of all these investment opportunities, past, present, and future investment opportunities on this map. You can click on them individually. You can sort them just like in an Excel sheet. You can sort them by the catchment, the LGA, the cost, or you could sort them by the environmental, social, cultural, Indigenous, and economic returns, or a total score, right? So you can start to see how you can start to, depending on where your money or your investment's coming from, if you're particularly interested in the social returns of a project, you can sort all the activities in southeast Queensland by social returns, etc., etc. There's our Cedar Grove highlighted there. Okay, sorry. The next slide
The system dynamics.
is... Okay, so, you know, we don't want to be smoke and mirrors here. We want to have some science behind how we've estimated those returns. Okay, and this is starting to be the systems thinking approach. So you can start to see there It looks a bit like a map of spaghetti, but on top there is a system thinking map for the Logan region. And then below that, we have the actual system map for Cedar Grove Environmental Education Centre, right? And you can start to see how it's going to be influencing the economy, the social, the environmental, and the Indigenous cultural, right? And we can quantify some of these relationships. And those quantified relationships is how we come up with the points, right?
And you could see how they compare to the SDGs, for example, just given the discussion we had.
Yeah, that's the one. We've got 4 returns here. Imagine if that bar graph was actually the 17 SDGs, and we could start to see how this investment is actually influencing poverty. How is it influencing partnerships? How is it influencing all 17? Remember, some will be negative. You can't be positive on everything. Maybe you can. But for the first time, it's identifying, wash your car on the grass is what we tell people, right? Is that really the best thing to do? Maybe it is. But what are the knock-on effects from that? We don't know. So this provides that opportunity to identify those surprises of our actions and those unintended and intended consequences. All right. Yes. Now, can we log... Oh, yeah, I'm talking way too long. So another interesting piece of information on here that you might see is at the bottom is the award. There's an award for doing and implementing these actions. So a lot of the feedback we got is that, yes, I'm sick of getting an F, I'm sick of getting a D, but we're pumping heaps of millions of dollars in here, and we've got volunteers working their butts off to try and make this a better place, but we're still getting no recognition for that, which is why we've invested in this idea of having a reward program. There's a difference between award and reward. I had to Google it. Status credits and SEC points, SEQ points. That's one we're playing around with. Now, it's very similar to a frequent flyer program, right? The more you invest, the more frequently you invest, the greater your status changes, right? And that can go down over time. So status, can you imagine? Logan City Council moves from bronze to gold status. They can put it on their website. The Coochie-Mudlow Island Community Group, Environment Group, has done all these investments. They get a status. They can put it on their website and be proud of that. So that status makes sense. What about the points? Points, it's great to earn points, but you need to be able to redeem them for something. So we've partnered with the good guys. No, that's not true. We've got an idea of how could you redeem these points? What if you could redeem them for offsets? Or what if you could redeem them for carbon credits, nutrient credits, salinity credits, other eco credits? Right? So you're earning points that can be traded for other types of credits or used in themselves.
And what if you could trade them in for like a medal?
Or a medal. Yeah,
a gold medal in biodiversity conservation.
So that we're still working on, so I'm really welcome any ideas you have on that.
So I just want to talk about prioritisation for a second.
Yes,
Can I do that?
Yes, please.
So another really important aspect of what we've been doing, and we're going to wrap it up just in the next couple of minutes, because I know we're keeping you from coffee, and I just know that I wouldn't want to do that. So these screen grabs are lifted from the South East Queensland Natural Resource Management Plan released today. So we got it yesterday afternoon into this presentation. But really, one of the key things, so Simon's talked about the rewards, but how do you decide where to invest? And how can we then reward organisations and individuals for investing in the right place? So that thing we talked about before, we know where to invest. So if you look at the top right image, it's hard to see, but that's the areas of South East Queensland where we know there's waterway erosion and there's work that's required. So you say, okay, that's a location I'd like to invest. I'm also interested in biodiversity, in threatened species. So our biodiversity, you can look at the biodiversity planning assessment layer. You can overlay that, and then you can say, based on those two criteria, these are the spots that would make most sense to invest. If you invest there because you're ticking off on really important things for South East Queensland, you get, according to our analysis that we haven't yet done, you would get more points for that. You would be rewarded more because you've invested in the right place at the right time, and you've invested the right amount of money. So just to reiterate that, today we've talked about the EHMP and the report card. We've talked about the South East Queensland Natural Resource Management Plan, and we've talked about Future Card. And for us, they're the same thing. So it's not that this is a separate project. This is that project that kind of brings these things together. We'll still have EHMP and report card. We'll still have the NRM plan, but this is a set of tools that brings those things to life.
Yep.
So we're going to wrap up now. But
Do you notice Michelle, imaginary Michelle, has already logged in here, and Michelle can see she's from the Queensland State Government, so that's to their account. So whether you were receiving points as an individual, I don't think so. It'd probably be an organisational level. You can see her balance of points, and you can see that she's got an option there to lodge projects. Right? So she can lodge projects that would come into the system, be processed, and then made public and put on the map. So what we're talking about here is a one-stop shop for viewing investments, past, present and future.
Yep.
In South East Queensland, it provides an opportunity for investors to collaborate. Perhaps if we join forces, you're going to make an investment there, I'm going to make an investment there, let's do it together, we can do it at a cheaper price. It provides assistance in making decisions because you understand better what the returns are and minimise surprises. It gives you some recognition and reward for that healthy competition that was within South East Queensland when the report card first came out. The mayors were like, hey, what did you get? Why did they get a B and I got a C? That's sort of dissipated over time. So this point system is about that healthy competition reintroduced into South East Queensland.
And I think just to wrap up, because we've gone a little bit over time, we have kept you from coffee. So just to wrap up, it's the report card has been globally really successful. I don't think people in this room may know, but it's been adopted around the world, right? Like you've helped make that happen as a report card. I heard you say you're a report card practitioner. Yeah. It's a rather fancy title. So it's our hope, and I think I really believe in this. Those of you who know me, this is the one. I've been a bit of a one-track goat on this one. It's our hope that this model, like the HMP and the report card, is going to be globally adopted as a mechanism to help with SDGs and a whole range of other metrics, but as a way of bringing together the science with those objectives, and then also bring that layer of accountability over the top as well.
Yep.
So we've given you a sneak peek. It's just you've just had a light graze. I'll offer you coffee, but just before we go, I'll just say Simon and I are available. Come and have a chat with us. We'd be really willing and open to hearing thoughts or give us some advice.
Thank you.
Open to that. So thank you so much.